The meeting room will come to order. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Director Laura, will you lead us, please?
Thank you. Ready? Salute.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Do we have anyone for invocation? No?
What?
Will you lead us in prayer? Sure. Thank you.
If you would bow your heads with me, please. Heavenly Father, we thank you for your presence in this room. We ask for your guidance as we make decisions that affect our county, and not only our county, but our region, and especially our constituents. We ask that you give us guidance, wisdom, and that you give us the guidance that helps us to make the right decisions that affect our community for a positive way. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Roll call, please.
Director Espinoza. Present. Director Ho. Director Lohr.
Here.
Director McCain.
Present.
Director McDaniel.
Present.
Director Murphy.
Here.
Here.
Director Price. Here. Director Rialta.
He called. He's not able to make it tonight. That's it? Okay. Item number 4, approval of the agenda. Is there a motion?
Chair, I'll move.
Second?
It's been first and seconded. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Item 5, public comment.
Honorable board members, Chairperson McCabe, I am here for a couple of reasons, okay, and it's been a long time since I've been before this board again, and but I wanted to congratulate you on your chairmanship, and also on you running for mayor for Livingston, so congratulations. Very proud that somebody from Livingston is running for mayor. Okay. Also, what I wanted to speak is in regards to the overpass there on Shanks that has been so deteriorating. And I had brought this up also to our board of supervisors, and he indicated it's a county issue. So I just hope that the year doesn't pass without getting that fixed also as well. My truck is out of alignment because of all those potholes that we have there in Delhi. So just hope that that gets taken care of. Also, you know, we're using the bikes. Also, my rims are all bended because of the kind of the potholes. So it is a concern, especially when we want bike lanes out there. So if we don't fix the roads, how can we get the bike lane started? So that's what I wanted to address, and I'll probably comment on other agenda items also as well. I thank you very much for giving me the time to speak.
Good afternoon, board. My name is Josephina Ochoa, and I work for the bus. Yesterday, I went out with my sister to train her how to ride the bus. The problem with the bus system and the signs, they're very small schedules. So people with their vision impaired a little bit, I was wondering if we can address about the problems to making bigger signs for the people that have a hard time reading. And the direction on all the bus stops, it's not telling you which direction it's going or where to stop. So they had better saying we're going towards Merced or Atwater or where to stop on the corner of Beechwood. They're pulling over the railroad tracks going on downward. So they're standing in a puddle of water when it's raining. There's no sign there to say it's going to Livingston or Winton. So we need better signs for them to be able to use our system here in Merced County. Okay, my next was, I know I worked for the bus and the National Express was getting penalized a lot for fines at late runs and stuff. So they were getting all these fines, and so National Express was paying the money of the fines. I just wanted to know, if possible, total amount of fines that they were allowed and what is the board using the money for. And my address is 42 Live Oaks, Planada, California. And my name is Josephine Ochoa. If you can get back to me on that, thank you.
Good afternoon, board members. My name is Joseph Castillo, resident of Delhi, and I have several items to issues and concerns for speaking on behalf of the residents of Delhi. First of all, though, I would like to give recognition to Lloyd Pereira and the rest of our Merced County supervisors, and also Dana at Public Works and his team. We've already put some Measure V money to work for Delhi. Earlier this year, we had a major thoroughfare, Shanks Road, that was resurfaced, repaved, and that's had been a big concern for Delhi residents, as it's a major route to and from our schools, Delhi Educational Park. So we're grateful for that. And also, the residents of Delhi are concerned about their children's safety to and from schools on the major thoroughfares routes of Shendale Road and Shanks Road. The residents of Delhi have signed a petition. We have about 85 names or signatures currently, and our concern is to have dedicated protected bike lanes on these two roads, Shendale and Shanks, which feed Delhi Educational Park, Shendale Schools, and El Capitan Schools. And currently, there's no bike lanes. Now, we did have we've brought this up through our MAC advisory council, so the Delhi residents will continue to voice their concerns about that. So we have gone through that process, and also. We also have a concern, and I believe this is already funded, an ATP project for Shanks Road, which will extend sidewalks where they currently end on Shanks Road at Lewis Circle to Latu Avenues. Currently, that stretch of roadway on Shanks has no sidewalks. And so right now, children who bike or residents who bike or walk currently do that on to the side of the road. So these are concerns. Now, we have had some feedback from Public Works. They have provided a couple of maps showing, it's hard to understand, so it would be helpful if we could get more clarification about regarding bike lanes, that there are bike lanes or enough room for bike lanes on Shanks and Shendale, but I believe currently it's still in the process of being surveyed. So these are two big concerns for Delhi residents, and we've also had some help with this proposed projects through Leadership Council, the nonprofit organization who's helping rural communities like Delhi. So thank you for your time, board members, and we'll look forward to seeing these projects get started and hopefully completed. Thank you.
Hello, good evening. My name is Abigail Ramirez. I'm a policy advocate with Leadership Council for Justice and Accountability, and I'm just here supporting some of the residents. We have Delhi and Planada here today, and I know part of the agenda is going to go into different funding sources like Measure V, FTIP, and it kind of overlaps. So I wasn't sure if this was the appropriate time to do it, but Delhi folks have been talking to the supervisor, and thank you so much for your help, Mr. Pereira, and Public Works to kind of get a protected bike lane project. We have collected petitions, and I could share that with you as well. But there is great interest to create a safety pedestrian project there, and it would connect a lot of the different schools on Shendel and Shanks. And so we're just asking the MCAG board to look at this project and to identify funding sources that could be FTIP, Measure V, SB1, CMAQ as possible funding sources for this. And I'm here also supporting Planada residents. We have some residents here as well. We are advocating for the Plainsburg 140 roundabout. Residents have been involved from the beginning, involving all the key stakeholders from Caltrans, Public Works, MCAG, and MCAG did identify this as a priority through the RTP process, and now we just have to find the funding sources to do this. For over 10 years, residents have been advocating for this project, and there has been a lot of deaths there this year and many years, and so we're asking the MCAG board to locate and secure funding sources for this. Again, this could be through CMAQ, SB1, FTIP, Measure V, all of those sources. And so I'm just here supporting the residents from Delhi and Planada. And I do have petitions for both of those projects. So again, I just want to thank both Mr. Espinosa and Pereira for supporting us in this. And we really do hope that MCAG could secure and identify funding sources for these two projects. Thank you.
Is there any other public comment? Nope. Seeing none, we'll move on to item 6, approval of the minutes. Oh, would you like to speak? Okay.
I'm just going to interpret.
Hello, everybody. My name is Blanca Lozano. I came from Delhi. Okay. Sí. Para mí, hoy que vengo aquí a hacer una petición especialmente para nuestro supervisor, el señor Loy Pereira.
Hello, good evening. My name is Blanca Lozano, and I'm here to make a petition to our supervisor, Loy Pereira.
Para mí es importante que las carreteras de nuestro pueblo de Delhi estén arregladas, porque los carros al tiempo, las llantas se desgastan más y aparte de eso, también el pueblo se ve acabado, se ve abandonado.
It is important for me to have the streets of Delhi with good infrastructure, because if we don't fix them, then they look deteriorated.
Hay que tener seguras las carreteras por el bien de las familias, ¿verdad?, que corren las carreteras.
It's important to have these streets safe for the children and for folks that walk through these streets.
Thank you for hearing me.
I'm also going to interpret.
Okay.
Buenas tardes, mi nombre es Carolina Arceo. No iba a hablar, pero me interesa tanto nuestro pueblo que es Planada, la importancia que tiene que hagan algo en la cruzación de Plainsburg y 140. Es algo tan importante, ya que ahí las personas que más cruzan el Plainsburg son personas que viven en los campos, que es pura gente agrícola, que muchas de las personas no tienen en qué transportarse y tienen que caminar sobre esa carretera, y se necesita algo ahí. Ya han pasado muchos accidentes y lamentablemente se han muerto. No queremos más eso ahí en Planada. Se ha pedido por años. Ojalá que en esta ocasión sí lo tomen en cuenta. Tal vez si no se puede un semáforo, que sea un stop o algo, pero que que se oiga de ustedes que sí queremos oír esa propuesta de ustedes, que algo se va a hacer.
Déjame traducirlo porque se me olvidó. Hi, my name is Carolina. I'm from Planada, and I wasn't going to speak on this matter, but my community is very important to me, the community of Planada, and I really hope that we are able to do something on the intersection of Plainsburg and 140. For there's been a lot of accidents, some which have resulted in many deaths, and oh my God, sorry, I'm trying to catch up. Yeah, I think that was it.
Bueno, lo más importante es eso, que no nos olviden. Y es una carretera tan importante, tan solo para turistas, porque ahí los turistas pasan yendo a Yosemite, entonces ojalá que esa calle sea muy importante para ustedes y para nosotros. Gracias.
I also forgot to say that she said that the priority was a street light, but, and this is me adding, Caltrans did perform a analysis on that street, but it didn't warrant a light. So then we're looking at the alternative, which is the roundabout, but the street light has always been the priority. And she mentioned that this is a street that a lot of tourists also pass through there to go to Yosemite, and so it's really important to have a safe environment. And thank you.
Hi, my name's Diana Odom Gunn, and I'm the community outreach organizer for San Joaquin Drug. We are a small family-owned pharmacy on Highway 140 in Planada. The front of our pharmacy is all windows. From my desk, I watch families dodge traffic as they try to get from the market with little children on both sides across the street to their homes, to the grocer, to our pharmacy, or to the Dollar General. We've been watching this now for many, many, many years, and sometimes with very unfortunate outcomes. For these reasons, although we are not, as a business, usually politically active in any way, for the residents of Planada, for our patients, we need traffic control at the intersection of Plainsburg and Highway 140 before more people die. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Samuel Ariano. I've been a resident of Planada for 2 years now. And before that, I was a resident of Merced. So to me, Planada was just this little blip that you went through you never thought about. But being part of the community, these messages you're hearing, I hear them all the time from my residents. At every meeting, we talk about safety. We talk about how we can make Planada better. That we talk about the 140 intersection over and over and over. It's something that, you know, when you say we've been talking about it for 10 years, I've been hearing about it for 2, but you can hear it in the passion of the people that this is something they feel frustrated about, they feel ignored about, they feel like nobody cares about Planada, and it's just something you have to cross to get to Yosemite. But it is a community of people. It is a community of people who support the agricultural backbone of the Central Valley. I run a center that currently has 280 residents. They're a combination of kids and senior citizens, and I see this too, the trying to get across the street to get your tacos or to get your groceries or to get your kids to school. And it happens over and over. As the fog comes in, as you know, people start running late for work, they speed more, and everybody's trying to do their own thing, and we really need something that's gonna ensure the safety of the community, but also, you know, tell people, hey, well, this is more than just an intersection. This is a city, and it has people, and it has lives. So just, you know, we've been talking about it. I'm really happy that this seems to be getting somewhere, and just, you know, don't forget us.
Would any other member of the public like to speak? All right, seeing none, we'll move on to item 6. It's approval of minutes, items A through C.
Move to approve.
Is there a second? All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Item 7, Citizen Advisory Committee report.
Good afternoon. The Citizens Advisory Committee met on Friday, August 3rd, 2018. There were 2 action items. One was the final draft for the 2019 Federal Transportation Improvement Program. That motion was unanimously carried for the governing board to adopt this final draft. The second item was the final draft for the 2018 Regional Transportation Program. Motion was unanimously carried for the governing board to adopt the 2018 Regional Transportation Plan. Unless there are any other questions or comments, that's the end of my report.
Are there any questions? No, thank you. Item 8, Merced County Regional Waste Management Authority monthly update.
Good afternoon, Board. Got a few pictures. Again, tonnage, you're used to seeing this, maintaining and keeping it, limiting at Billy Wright so that we have capacity, but I'll cover that in a minute. It's going very well over there. Here's just a few updates. This is a biggie. We are putting additional gas lines in the Phase 6A at Highway 59. So every 40 feet, we put a layer of lines across the top. And so this was the latest iteration of that. And so all the gas that's collected from there ends up going to a larger pipeline, which we call a header. And that's the header, a big 12-inch line. And we actually weld those pieces together, and then it ends up at the flare. And all of this is required. We have to do this because of the methane. But the good news is that we hope to be able to sell electricity to the UC with this. So the gas collection system going in could mean more revenue to us down the road, and we actually get some money to pay for these things that we have to do. And I also want to mention the timeline on that. Just very briefly, I know it's probably hard to read these, but we actually started discussions with them in December of 2013. So we've been working on this project for about 4.5 years. We spent a couple of years then talking to them about different scenarios. How do we do this? Do we make electricity at the landfill and use somebody else's power lines? Do we pump the gas over there? Do we make electricity there? And so we've ended up with that one, the one you're used to. And so we actually submitted to them a power purchase agreement, which says, we'll make the electricity if you'll agree to buy it. And so we came to those conclusion of terms back in July of 16. And then we've gone through several iterations where we ended up with an MOU, and we actually gave them the final MOU of July of 17. And then they actually signed it in March of 18. And so since March is when we got it back, and from March we've been very busy. We've actually determined the right-of-way. We've determined the best technology. We know the emissions. So now it's just going to come down to if we can get the environmental permitting and then making sure we have enough gas to make our money back. So I think the project's going very well. I'm still not 100% that we'll have enough gas. We should know that in a few months. And then I'm still not 100% certain that we will get all the permitting. But again, it looks good from this point. So at this point, and I don't know that we'll make the exact date of the 2020 deadline of when the campus is actually built, but it's my understanding that the campus will have PG&E supplying power to it, and we'll just have a switch, and we can toggle from PG&E back to the landfill gas. So in the interim, if we are a few months late, the idea would be they just pay probably a little bit more to PG&E for the electricity, and then when we flip the switch over, we'll actually give them a cost savings to switch over to the gas. So any questions about the timeline or?
Yeah, Brooks, we, a couple of my colleagues and I were out at UC Merced to see the preview of what's happened out there. And they were very clear that they want it to happen as fast as they can. So they are completely on board. So this is a good thing.
Okay.
But I know at first we had discussions like, wow, we hoping they were going to be there and the communications breakdown, but they were very clear to us. They are ready to, very enthusiastic.
Okay.
Wanted to do it as soon as they could, get it
Excellent.
up and going.
Well, and I don't want to speak too soon, but like I said, the environmental permitting should be very well. The pipeline route is either 100% right-of-way that we already have, which is obviously go down 59 and Bellevue, but that's the longest distance. And then we've determined another path that only has one single property owner. That would shorten it by about a mile. And then we would go back to right-of-way. So if we can negotiate with that one person, and we may be talking to you about if you know that one person. And anyway, so either of the two options, it should be minimal. That's the biggest environmental hurdle, and it should be minimal because it's essentially all in right-of-way. So, sorry, any other questions?
Good.
Yeah, the emissions off of the power generation will be less than the emissions off of the flare.
Yes.
And so, have you visited with staff at the Air Pollution Control District?
Yeah, they actually have permitted these type of things in the district, and they like this technology.
And how about availability of grants?
We're still looking into that. There's another one that we just found out about this week, and so we're going to participate in the WebEx seminar on that and try to get some more information. But that would come. The timing should come along to help us fund this if we're eligible and it goes through.
And one other question, I don't know if the number's even been picked yet, but do you know what the per kilowatt hour price is going to be?
Yeah, not
at liberty.
Am I allowed to say that?
No, that's okay if you're not. Okay.
Yes, that was part of that 2-year process was where do we make money? Where do we have to be to pay for it? And then what are they paying? And then what's kind of meeting in the middle there? We're giving them a discount and we make a little profit to pay for it. We try to be fair.
Any further questions? Okay, item 9, master consultant agreements, expenditure summary, please.
Oh, I'm sorry, I have a couple more updates.
Okay.
So you may remember that we had some, this is prior, 10 years ago or more, we have some groundwater migration issues at the property owner south of Highway 59. And we just we actually provide them with water, drinking water, bottled water, and then we actually drilled them a deeper well that's cleaner. And we test that. So it's good, but we still have to have some wells along the property boundary that determine that we're not contaminating their property. And so those wells went dry a couple years ago because the groundwater table dropped. And so it's basically a 2-year process to condemn and close those old wells and get new wells drilled. So we got the permitting all done and they got drilled the other week. So there are 2 or 3 new wells on the Regert property, and they're not totally complete yet, but they're put in the ground. So that's a good thing. And then I also want to talk a little bit about the drone. I think you guys have had a lot of interest in that and the efficiency of it, because Jared does this for us, and he took 37 minutes, and it took 424 separate images and spliced that together all on the computer for him. So this is what it ends up looking like. 178 acres done in 37 minutes with 66 million data points. That would take 3 or 4 hours, and we would get 150 data points. So this is tremendous technology. And we're just learning it. He's just getting to use it, up to speed on it. But this is an idea of the 3D image that can be taken from that. And so obviously we'll try to wow you with some pictures coming up of both sites. But we were just very excited to actually get this done. His first try, this is what we got, first flights. And then Billy Wright landfill, this is Brooks trying to slice together 2 images rather than doing a panoramic view. But this is the excavation, and this is a month behind the times, but there's already liner and everything. You'll be amazed at the pictures next month. And I'll have some liner samples for you so you understand what's actually going down to protect the groundwater underneath the landfill. It's very substantial. But anyway, this is the excavation that was done probably a month ago. Yeah. This is roughly a month ago. So the excavation is totally complete. This area on the left, that's all got liner in it already. So then to just give you an idea of the scale, the base of the new phase versus the height of what we're permitted to go, that's 145 feet. So this picture doesn't do it justice. If you're standing there, it is a huge, massive expansion. It's a big project. And that's it for any questions on the phase 2B. Thank you.
Okay, item 9, master consultant agreements, expenditure summary, please.
And you have that packet in your book there. I don't have the numbers were slightly incorrect in the first draft, so I don't have that in the PowerPoint. But you can see we went out to RFQ back 2 years ago for engineering firms to help us with landfill design work mostly, and then the landfill gas systems and some environmental monitoring type activities. And so we use those because they're under contract. And so that's, again, it all went through you, but we just want to give you an update every 6 months of how much we're paying those firms. So if there are any questions on that, I'll be glad to answer them. And again, we've got much more documentation on all this, but I just won't bore you with the detail unless you have any specifics.
Any questions from the board? No. Thank you, Brooks.
All right. Thank you.
Item 10, Transit and Joint Powers Authority for Merced County monthly update. Artis.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I always like to start off the transit facility to kind of give you folks an idea of where we are with the transit facility. The work does continue on the new transit facility, and we're progressing well. We're actually expecting to be done ahead of schedule. We just got through talking to Acme, and they informed us that by October the 31st, they will be punching out. And so we're proud to report that we are ahead of schedule as far as that is concerned. And we're also, I wanted to mention that we're also putting in place some contract management systems where we're not having to come back to you folks for change orders. And so we've learned from mistakes from the past, and going forward, you should see a much better system in how we're dealing with managing our contracts. And I know this is extremely important as far as, spending the monies. And so we're really happy about that. And so I think going forward, you guys will be pleased with what we have in place. And I think Stacy can even we've reached out to our vendors and said, we're at the end of this contract. We want to make sure that we have the monies to complete our projects. And so we're taken real hard notice because we know that there are some things that was done in the past. The reason why we're in the jam that we're in now. And so we want to make sure that going forward, we're not having those issues that we've had in the past. The new transit radio system is completed. We're actually, the installation is done. September 1st, we're looking to go live in the new radios in the buses. And once again, during the board meeting in September, we're actually going to bring in a radio system and demo it here for you so that you can actually see, what we purchased and the amount of equipment that we have in our buses. And also the system that we have is better than actually what we anticipated. And so we want to make sure that you folks understand exactly, what's going forth in the buses in the field. Measure V ridership, compared to last year, we're actually up about 60%. We've actually carried 87,000 passengers in July, and that's a wonderful number, given that transit across the country is down. So Merced County, our ridership is actually up. Our transit office that we've purchased on a couple months ago, we're actually 75% complete in the construction of the design, and so we're hoping actually to move toward construction in the fall, and so we're actually on track as far as that is concerned as well. Our free fares, we kicked off the Spare the Air campaign August 1st, and we actually had a live feed at the Transpo, and some of the board members was actually out there, and I think we serviced about 500 passengers, and a few of those were first-time riders who were actually asking about the new service, and so we're actually excited about that as well. And that service actually will end on August the 31st, and so we're actually excited about that as well. If I can talk about yards for just a few moments. The Valley is open again. Our service had been suspended as far as yards was concerned, and so on last Saturday, we've actually started service back through yards. And also, yards through the LC Top program is offering reduced fares to Merced County. And I do have some flyers here for you folks if you'd like to have some. But just quickly, the adults actually through this program will be able to ride to Yosemite for 5 hours round trip. Children 13 to 12 will actually ride for $2.50 round trip, and children under 12 can actually ride to the Valley for free. And so, and that program is actually going to go through June 30th of 2019, starting on the 15th of August. And so once again, we're excited about that program, and I would really encourage, you folks to get some flyers, and we'll put the information out to Merced County. So at that rate, $5 round trip for adults to go from here to Yosemite, $5. And so we want to make sure that everyone's taking advantage of that program. That's my update.
Any questions? No? Thank you.
Thank you.
Question?
Okay, Paul.
Thank you. I just have a question for Mr. Smith. Is it Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Okay. I have been kind of like maybe on their back all the time. I know was coming down here and complaining and all that, but the support that I got from the staff, I really want to commendate Mr. Smith and also Dariana for being very cooperative and matter of fact, I was here this morning and to trying to get more information in regards of the new plans that they have for the new office that they're going to be getting, and that really also too. And I told them about Fresno, how they have the solars at the bus stop with a machine. In other words, if you don't have the change and all that. See, so these are things that I like to see. In other words, in Merced County, and also I've been taking the bus for the first time, and I was really impressed with the service also as well that they provide. So I really wanted to compliment all the staff, in your department and you yourself. Thank you very much.
All right. Item number 11, State of Good Repair Project for fiscal year 2018-2019.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Mr. Chair and Directors. The State of Good Repair Program is funded from a portion of SB1, and while SB1 addresses a variety of transportation needs, the State of Good Repair Program has a specific goal of keeping the transit systems in a state of good repair. Staff has identified a capital project for fiscal year 18-19, which is to purchase and replace 3 cutaway buses. Staff is requesting board to adopt resolution authorizing the project filing for fiscal year 18-19 and to authorize the interim executive director to sign and execute documents related to this grant program. Are there any questions?
No questions.
Okay, thank you.
Is there any questions from the public? None? Okay. Is there a motion?
Both recommendations.
Is there a second? Second. All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion's carry. Item 12, authorized contract for construction management services for bus stop pullouts.
Thank you again, Mr. Chair. We want to actually ask the board to authorize for us or for the interim general manager, interim executive director, Ms. Stacy, thank you, to exercise amendment number 2 to enter into a construction management services contract in the amount not to exceed $44,000 for construction management of our bus pullouts. And we have another action item that's going to tell you specifically what those 2 bus pullouts are. And so we're asking for authorization for her to enter into contract with them for that construction pullout management service.
Any discussion? Motion? Is there a second? Second. All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Item 13, authorized contract for construction bus pullouts again. Okay. Hi.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members of the board. Staff released a informal bid in the beginning of July in order for us to get a construction company to do the 2 pullouts. These 2 pullouts are located in the city of Merced, one in front of Walmart, which has been a big request for our passengers and residents, and the other one would be on Austin near Barnes & Noble. We are requesting that you authorize our interim executive director to enter into contract with George Reed Inc. for the construction of these two pullouts for the amount not to exceed $264,000. Do you guys have any questions?
Yes. Isn't there already? Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm Director Murphy.
What's an informal bid?
It is where we don't evaluate, we get the lowest bid. So whatever bids come in, we go with whoever is the lowest amount. We don't actually go through a evaluation system.
Why is that?
Process. Why is?
When we want to evaluate the bid?
First, we want to. Well, you want to go ahead and answer that? I see you, Alicia.
I'm on. I'm going to invite Alicia up, if you don't mind, Mr. Chair. She's our procurement manager and can give you a much better answer than I could.
Fantastic.
Pardon me, it's an invitation for bids, not an informal bid. So an invitation for bids is a process in which we choose the lowest responsible bidder. So it's
Okay, I got that. I know that term. I didn't
Yes.
know what an informal bid is.
Just a minor error.
Oh, no, that's fine. Okay.
Yep.
That's it.
Yes. I had a question. Is there already a pullout there by Walmart? Because I noticed where the buses stop, but just down the road a little bit further, it seems like there's already a pullout, and I've always been confused why they don't use the pullout and they just stop there on the road.
So that pullout, I don't know if it's an actual pullout. It was done when they were going to do those homes in that area, in the development area. But it's the area where it's at is not useful to our passengers. They already have to walk the long distance from Walmart to the street, and then it's another like half a mile out. When you're carrying groceries, it's just not efficient. So that's why we're proposing the pullout to be right in front of Walmart, to where they're going to be right across the street from the other bus stop on the Best Buy side.
Okay, that makes sense. Thanks.
Did have one more.
Yeah.
I get a lot of questions about trash at the Walmart bus stop. Going to have a trash receptacle?
Yes, that is another reason why we're putting it in, because of the amount of trash. Because there is no pull-out or bus stop or bench, unfortunately, our passengers usually just are, tossing it on the floor. So this will hopefully solve that problem.
How are we doing on a trash receptacle at the one that's closest to Walmart right now? That's the one that has the problems right now. And
That one has a trash receptacle, and we have staff that cleans it twice a week. And we request that if any of our passengers or anyone see that a stop has any trash, that they call our office and we'll send them right over. Because the reality is that, we do as best as we can, our staff does, but some of our stops do, we can clean it one day and the next day it's already trashed again. So they're doing their best, but, we base it on who calls us and kind of the help from all of you all and the residents in the city of Merced to try to kind of pinpoint what stops need to be paid more attention to.
that one gets a lot of use.
Yes.
Any further discussion? Motions? All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Mr. Chair, can I excuse myself?
Yes. Okay. Item 14, authorized contract for geotechnical services for a maintenance facility.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, once again. The Transit Joint Powers Authority for Monterey County Board approved a project to construct a transit operation and maintenance facility in April of 2017. And as part of the construction project, it was necessary to employ a company that specializes in construction materials and special services. However, due to a underestimation and under budgeting scope of the work and subsequent necessary work and change orders of the treatment of payment, it is necessary that we come back to you folks to ask you to approve or allow our executive director to enter into a contract for geotechnical services in an amount not to exceed $50,000. Unfortunately, these services are essential to the successful completion of the facility. And once again, once we're over this hump, I can almost assure you that we will not be coming back to you for any more items such as this on the agenda for this project.
Any discussion? Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second? All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you.
Item 15, Caltrans report.
Hello, everyone. I'm Tom Dumas, Caltrans District 10. Before the meeting, I passed out the Caltrans mile markers for your reading at your leisure. There's a few extras here. If anyone's so savvy, they're also online. So if you want to download them on your iPad and read them at night in bed, well, enjoy yourselves. It kind of puts me to sleep sometimes, so maybe it'll work for you. Just a few notes, just to let you know. Let me get my glasses off so I can actually read what I'm saying. 140 is now open up to Yosemite, so the tourists and everybody can start heading that way. We're going to be performing some one-way traffic control on Highway 33 from 152 to Santa Anela Boulevard, Veracruz, and doing some grinding and stuff like that. I think they've already started. They may be finished with that. And they're going to have some ramp closures intermittent on 99 up and down the highway for their restriping project they've got going. A couple other things. The new Sustainable Grants program this year, the draft guidelines are out for many of the cities here in Merced County. There's a new requirement that's a hook for you that they're hiding, that your housing elements have to be up to date. The draft guidelines are still in draft, so particularly for the city of Los Banos, who had 2 grants last year, and one of them was approved, and I was hoping the second one would be applied for this year. That housing element will stop them from being able to apply. So I would suggest comment on those guidelines, suggest that this is the warning for this year and this come into next year. It'll give you an opportunity to work through the housing elements and have everybody get it squared away instead of, my opinion, their headquarters is telling folks a little too late. But I've already whined at them enough that they realize my pay level doesn't matter. But your pay level, that's a different story. So let them know. Other than that, one small pat on the back for the state of California, Merced in particular. Merced has one of the best bicycle pedestrian access in the county. I mean, well, it is in our district, and it's close to one of the best in the state. And over the last 20 years, the state of California spent about $1 billion improving bike and pedestrians. In 2013, we were listed as the number 9 state for bicycle friendliness. This last year, we're now ranked up to number 3. So thank you very much for your help, and appreciate it. And now it's your turn. Any problems, complaints that I don't already know about?
Questions?
Yeah. Knew there'd be one.
Tom, if you don't mind, I can anticipate Director Murphy's question about the message I forwarded about the no right turn on the 13th and 140V.
Perfect segue. I have a new staff person, Hilda Souza. She's taking Steve's place, taking over this county. She's already gotten a hold of folks and is processing that through our system, and will find a real definite answer soon. Right now, they've sent it out. It's going through a traffic study. Our traffic studies take a couple of months to get some things through. Once they get through, ordering signs, usually not something they've got sitting on the rack, but they will address it as soon as they can. But if I get a dead date on when they're going to have things fixed, I will definitely let you know.
Okay, appreciate that.
Any further questions?
Once.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Item 16, information discussion items A through G. Are there any questions regarding these items? Yes.
On B, the calendar of meetings. Is that what we're on right now?
Yes, yes.
I've shared in the past, I just want to make sure that we are holding meetings in places where they can be recorded. And if there's not cameras set up, in some of these other places, we should bring cameras there and archive our meetings.
Who doesn't have recording systems?
When we've been to Dos Palace, they haven't recorded. You're raising your hand. Does Gustine not do it? Yeah, I mean, I think Jim Sanders' crew or somebody could get out there and do it. I just think it's important that there be some visual record other than just the minutes.
Okay.
So is that something that we can do to go to Gustine?
We can reach out to Jim Sanders. We work with him in other jurisdictions, so we've previously looked into buying the technology so that we were very mobile and we could use it for workshops and open houses, and it was very cost prohibitive. Just to be able to the recording, the video recording wasn't the issue. It's the audio recording that would require at every microphone. It was really cost prohibitive. But we can definitely reach out to Jim and see if we could just extend the services that he already provides through your jurisdictions, and see if we can get that happen for Dos Palace and Gustine.
Okay, so our meeting next month is in Gustine. I would suggest if we can't have it in place, sounds like we can, but if we can't, that we swap the order.
I'm going to look at Joy, and she's going to give me a gut answer of whether or not you think we could have it in Gustine by next month. That's a good point. Okay. All right. So this is all coming back to me. We've had these conversations probably about a year ago. Jim utilizes the equipment at the jurisdiction that he's providing the services. So he uses Merced's and Atwater's equipment, and that's right. I was wondering why we hadn't done this already. It's because he doesn't have his own equipment. So and the other jurisdictions don't use outside vendors. They do it internally. So we could very expeditiously try to reach out to see if there are other service providers, other vendors in the community, but I now am very doubtful we'd be able to have this up and running by Gustine.
I'm looking at Mayor Price, so maybe between our two cities we could figure out some equipment for somebody. Because we do it in-house now. We have our built-in cameras, but we have the portable ones that we used to use. They're not water. Yeah. Right. I just think it's important. So whatever the pleasure of the board is, that's my viewpoint. The other is, we had a number of people today, several that needed translation services, and I don't know if we've had a discussion about having interpretation services available. Are they available? Is there an interpreter here? They have to call in advance? Okay. Okay. Well, I mean, I just think we need to make these meetings as accessible as possible, and it's not that expensive in the grand scheme to have interpretation services on hand. The city of Merced, we have them there just all the time, and sometimes they're not used, but it's not a call ahead type thing. So, my thoughts.
Further discussion on any of the items?
Do you need to have direction on the TV stuff or not?
Thank you. You just read my mind. I was like, where do I go with this? That would be helpful. We work with a gentleman that is our on call for interpreting services, and we can see about that. The only thing I would have to make sure is whatever the cost would be to make sure that it's something that we could just, which I assume it will be, that we can just arrange with him in advance and then have him at all the meetings. That's not a problem if that's the consensus of the board.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I don't think that's on the agenda for today. And I'm not criticizing the mayor for having this consideration of it and so on, but I think it's something that needs to be on the agenda to determine. I mean, we've never had a mandatory requirement of any entity have different types of videotaping or everything else. And if if we decide to do that, we need to take official action in regards to it.
I think what we're talking about today is we're being asked to is approve our meeting schedule.
We're not being asked to approve anything. It's just information items.
So this so let me just ask the question, because I saw this changed by email
Mm-hmm.
in the last month. Was that just an informational item, or did we actually approve that?
We don't typically do an approval of the meeting calendar because we arrange it with each of the jurisdictions based on the rotation schedule. So, for example, if the Merced meeting came up and Merced, the venue was not available for some reason, we would then look at switching your meeting with another jurisdiction that was willing to switch and would be available. So those switches happen. It's, to my knowledge, in the time I've been here, the board has never taken action to approve the calendar of meetings for the year. Yes. Okay, there we go. You do in January. Yeah. So as a question, do we go back and ask the board for changes to that calendar when those changes occur?
Yeah, or just more general. I mean, his
Okay.
point is, it's not on the agenda to be, acted on. However, it's agendized. I think it's still just a relevant point of conversation that we need to be aware of and talk about. That's why I brought it up.
You bring something back to us at the next meeting, please.
I will, for both the
both
interpreting
items.
services and recording at all locations. And I'll also include in there what our procedures are for setting the calendar and changing, because now I realize I need to know that too.
Any further discussion? Okay. Item 17, transportation planning update.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the board. You may be aware the Active Transportation Program had a call for projects, Cycle 4, and that closed July 31st. And I'm happy to report that there were 8 applications from Merced County jurisdictions and Caltrans as well. So we'll look forward to hopefully seeing at least some of those get awarded in January. That's when the announcements will be made, is in January 2019. The pavement management system continues. The consultants collected all the data, and a training has been set for your jurisdiction technical staff. That's going to be in September. Just so you know, that's moving ahead very well. We talked about RTIF, and the 7 jurisdictions have already all acted to terminate the agreement. MCAG board still has not acted on that agreement, so we'll be bringing something to you next month for action. And then also we talked about having that reconciliation of the funds, because there was still a few checks that were coming in. So we'll have that final reconciliation of what those numbers would be according to the agreed upon direction that was provided earlier. So you'll see that next month. And then lastly, I wanted to let you know that also next month we'll be coming to you for direction on CMAQ, on issuing a call for projects. So CMAQ, this next call for projects is basically going to be adding 2 years of funding, about $5 million or so. And typically the way that works is the jurisdictions submit applications, and then there's a scoring process. And then it comes back to the board for approval and inserting those projects in the FTIP. So if you have any questions on any of those items or any other transportation planning items, I'd be happy to answer those for you.
Questions? Done. Item 18, 2017 FTIP Amendment Number 14, Federal Transit Administration, Section 5339. Matt?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This item is basically just adding some additional funding to the transit remodel project of the building. So the TJPA already last month took action to program these 5339, that's transit capital money, to that project. And so this is a request to do the same and via an FTIP amendment.
Is there a motion?
I'll move.
Is there a second? All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Item 19, Regional Transportation Plan, Environmental Impact Report, Federal Transportation Improvement Program, and corresponding conformity analysis.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, so I'm going to talk about a number of items here, all under one item because they're all related. So we've been working on this for a while. And before I start, I do want to acknowledge our consultant teams. A couple of the folks are here with us today. But the Regional Transportation Plan was prepared for us with the assistance of Kimley Horn was the lead consultant, and their subs, Mintier Harnish, Encina Advisors, and RGS. And Jimmy Dankowicz is here, formerly with Kimley Horn, now with GHD. And then our EIR was prepared by VRPA Technologies, and Georgina Vivian, president of VRPA, is here with us today. So I wanted to acknowledge their hard work. And then I also want to thank the RTP Advisory Committee, who worked very hard. We had a number of meetings at the beginning, and they provided guidance on outreach and scenario development and a number of other things. So I want to thank them for giving us their time and giving us their guidance. Okay, so basically the RTP is our long-range plan. The FTIP is where everything with federal money has to be in the FTIP. The EIR is the environmental analysis for the RTP, and the air quality conformity is showing that we're not making the air worse with our plans and programs. So I'm done. No, not really. Sorry. How do I make this go? No?
Put up there.
All right, thank you. There we go. We started either 2 years ago or 1 year ago, depending on how you look at it. 2 years ago, we started developing the public participation plans that guided our outreach during this. And then a little over a year ago, we started in earnest on the RTP, establishing goals, developing the scenarios. And I wanted to point out, it actually took more than 1 month to do those scenarios. That was actually 4 months. And then preparing the draft, the environmental review, and now we're at the final draft. There's a long list of federal and state requirements. All of these things are prepared according to federal and state laws. We meet all the requirements, so I won't go into any of those in detail. We did a lot of outreach. We had a plan that specified what our outreach would be, and we did that and exceeded that. Some of that was at the request of communities and community organizations. So we did a whole lot of workshops. We did a lot of variety of trying to get the information out, allowing people to comment on the process and participate, and we did a lot of community group presentations as well. The major meetings were in 3 rounds. So we had a round last summer where we were asking for some visioning type questions, general, what kinds of things would you like to see? And round 2 was talking about those scenarios and which ones people preferred. And then round 3 was the open houses where the draft documents had been released, and we were letting people know how they could comment, and if they had questions, they could ask us individually. One of the key things in the RTP is the project list. So we fortunately have a much longer project list now. We have several hundred projects in the RTP, whereas compared with previously, there weren't that many. And basically, that's because of the additional funding. So it's SB1 and it's Measure V. About double, I would say, the total amount of revenue is what we're assuming we're going to have over the next 25 years. And that's all the sources. That's the state sources, the federal sources. It's the sources that MCAG board decides. It's a lot of local money as well. So it's just adding up all of that is about $4 billion. And a big increases in pretty much every piece of the pie, but especially in maintenance. So the SB1 dollars are primarily maintenance. So there's a lot more money, as you know, going to your local jurisdictions. There's additional transit money. There's a lot of additional capacity money, which we've actually seen via the Livingston 99 project. I mean, that's basically happening as all part of this. So additional money means more projects can be assumed. An important thing that the RTP has to look at is greenhouse gases. And I'm happy to report that the RTP does meet the targets set by the state. So you may remember the previous plan, we had some issues there. But we are able to show that we do meet both the 2020 and the 2035 targets. And those 2 graphs in there, those charts show that although VMT, that's the total amount of driving, does go up, That's basically because our population growth goes up and our through traffic goes up. You know, cars and trucks going up and down 99 and 5, that's going to continue to grow. But what goes down is VMT per capita. So if you divide the total amount of driving by the total amount of people that live here, we're actually seeing a reduction. And that's what the state goal basically is. So we're in line with that. We also have to do a EIR, and these are all the things that are part of the EIR process required by our California Environmental Quality Act. If you have any questions about that, Georgina could go into that, but I'm basically just going to keep moving on. Federal Transportation Improvement Program is another document. So I've been talking about the RTP and the EIR, but also associated is the FTIP, which we do this every 2 years. And this is a list of all the transportation projects that have federal funding in them or that are regionally significant. So for example, Campus Parkway segments 2 and 3 don't have any federal funding in them, but they are regionally significant. And those projects can't proceed unless they're in the FTIP. And then the air quality conformity analysis, again, is another federal requirement to show that the transportation plans and programs won't harm efforts to improve the air, won't make the air worse because of our plans. Okay, so the draft documents were out for public review for about 2 months. The FTIP and conformity was 1 month. We did the 4 open houses. We did the 2 public hearings. One was here. One was in Los Banos. Comment period ended July 17th. We got some minor comments from Caltrans on the FTIP, and Ty addressed all those and did all the things that they wanted to see there. We got 2 comment letters on the RTP and EIR, and we prepared responses to those, and those are in both documents. So in the RTP, it's an appendix, and in the EIR, the final EIR, it's chapter 2, with those 2 comment letters as well as responses to all those comments. The Caltrans comments on the RTP were basically asking where exactly to find particular information. The RTP has to do a bunch of things, and they have to ensure that it does. So they want to, we're basically making it easier for them to find where we're documenting all those things that we have to do. And then the other comments, one of them was that they wanted to see the greenhouse gas reduction calculations for all 4 of our draft scenarios. And the response there is basically that we only have to do the final calculation for the adopted plan. That's all ARB actually requires of us. And there was information all along the process that that all 4 scenarios would likely meet the state target. And in fact, they do. But we didn't do the final number because we didn't know what the final number would be. So what that is basically about is that, we didn't know at that stage if it would be 22 or 25 or that kind of thing. And we didn't want to publish premature information. We knew it would make it. So that's what's going on there. There were several comments about wanting to see more public outreach and more translation. And so the response there is that we followed our plan that we said we did everything we said we would do. We did even a little bit more than that. And then we will be updating that public participation plan for what we'll do next time. And so we definitely invite folks to comment on what they would like to see, and we may be able to accommodate that. But it's important to get that in at the get-go. When we say what we're going to do, that's the best time to ask for that additional outreach. So we accommodated what we could, and we definitely understand, that they would like to see certain kinds of individual outreach. So we want to take that forward into the next plan to see if we can improve. Because for one thing, we did workshops in Planada at request, and we got pretty good turnout there. So that's something we probably want to continue to do and maybe expand on that. So that, that's an example of that. Several comments about wanting to see more investment in transit and active transportation. And the response there is basically there already is an assumption of a lot more investment in transit, active transportation, as well as everything else. And again, that's because of SB1 and Measure V. And then there are numerous most of the funding sources can only be used for certain things. So you don't actually have discretion to move funds into, outside of the areas that they're required to be used for. And also a lot of those projects are other agencies. They're not MCAG. So our list of projects is what Caltrans says they're going to do, what the county says they're going to do, what the cities say they're going to do. It's not really MCAG doing those projects. And then there was also a request to look at a hybrid scenario. And that was something that was discussed by our advisory committee, and it did come before this board at the scenario selection time. And basically it was a request to look at a combination of two scenarios. So it was looking at something that was already being analyzed within the range of scenarios. And so that's basically the response, is that to look at another scenario would have required additional public consideration, and we felt like, you know, that's already considered within the 4 scenarios, because that's a range, and that meets with what you have to do for CEQA and all those sorts of things. That said, again, when we do our next RTP, we invite those same comments so that when we develop scenarios next time, we can analyze that request. So that's basically a summary of the major comments, and summarize basically what our responses are in the final drafts. And then we did make some changes from the drafts, which you saw before, to the final drafts. The FTIP changes are minor. The EIR has some changes, but it doesn't change any of the analysis or the impact or any of that stuff. The final draft RTP has some sprucing up that was done. So there were some new maps that show, you know, overall where all the projects are. There's maps for each city. There's some more graphics and charts. For example, the VMT, you know, per capita chart was added. There's some information on the federal safety performance targets. That's something that we have to have in the RTP, so we added that. And then an important one, this was actually one of the comments, was folks wanted to see the sustainable communities goals that we had in the last RTP. They wanted those to be in the RTP, and that makes a lot of sense. That's something that a lot of folks worked real hard on, developing those goals. So we reinserted those, you know, in the body of the document to make it clear that those sustainable communities goals are a key part of the RTP as a whole. So thank you for that comment. That was a very good comment, and we definitely did that. And then before I ask if you have any questions, the requested actions are actually 2 separate actions. We have to do them separately, right? Yes. Our consultant says that they have to be taken up separately. So the first is to certify the EIR, including the finding, the statement of overriding considerations, and the mitigation monitoring program. And then the second action would be adopting the resolution for the RTP, the FTIP, and the air quality. So if you have any questions, I'd be happy to take those.
Questions? Yeah.
I do have a comment. I want to commend you, Matt, and staff, as well as our consultants, for the work that you have done with RTP. I was a part of the committee, and by golly, it was a lot of work. And want to thank the residents for their input. When there were issues or concerns, misunderstandings, you took the initiative to explain things in a way that that folks could understand, and you had a lot of patience doing that. So I want to thank you and staff for making the conversation open, and I'm glad to see that we brought we revised it to include the goals from the last RTP, as well as keeping notes with current conversations for the future RTP. So thank you, Matt.
Any further comments or questions? Is there a motion for item A?
Excuse me. First action.
I'd like to open it up for public comment.
Hello again. Abigail with Leadership Council. Matt actually addressed some of the points that I'm going to be talking about today, but we did submit a letter, and so we wanted to address some comments that recommendations that we still have. But we also wanted to thank MCAC staff for their responses to our letter. They were very detailed, and they did get back to us fairly quickly, so we wanted to say thank you. They also incorporated a lot of our feedback and recommendations. Some of them include the development of a disadvantaged community needs assessment, as well as the Caltrans statewide transportation plan. Matt talked a little bit about updating the public participation plan, incorporating the sustainable community strategies, policies, and objectives. So we just want to thank them for doing that. We also want to thank Matt and Natalia Austin for the ongoing collaboration. We're having conversations about having a zero emission van pool program in Delhi and finding funding sources for that. So they have been meeting with us and having conversations about that. So we want to say thank you for that. We do have, and then also MCAG's commitment to work with lead agencies to expedite the implementation of all the infrastructure projects. But we do want to be clear that we don't see road expansion as an infrastructure improvement benefiting disadvantaged communities, and we still want to push for more investments in active transportation. And I know this is outside of the RTP and the item, but I'm not sure where to do it, but we do want to see if there can be an action taken on the comments previously during the public comment period, and see if there's opportunity to put those on the agenda, or see if MCAG could consider those for funding sources. So we do want to get a response as well, since folks did take the time to come today. But with that, I do want to offer those recommendations. The first one is analyze and incorporate the community-generated hybrid scenario in the 2018 RTP, which better ensures equitable, smart development within existing communities. The currently scenario inevitably distributes investments and burdens communities of colors and low-income communities to a greater extent than Merced County at large. The environmental impact review must also contain enforceable mitigation for greenhouse gas emissions, air quality impacts, and other significant impacts. As written now, there's no requirement that MCAG takes planning and development of smart growth areas through transportation investment and other funding decisions, offering incentives for transit-oriented developments in smart growth areas. The environmental impact review must better analyze. I just have a few more, but
go ahead.
Okay, I'm almost done. Promise. Must better analyze the impacts of the RTP, SES on greenhouse gas emissions in order to comply with CEQA, and also the environmental impact review must analyze the impacts of various scenarios on greenhouse gas impacts from medium and heavy truck traffic. As written now, the EIR uses 2014 data to quantify emissions from medium and heavy trucks, with that attempts to analyze the impacts of this impacts due to the 20 RTP SES. So our ask is for these recommendations to be addressed before adopting it. So any questions or comments?
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Is there any further comments from the public? Is there any further discussion from this board? Is there a motion?
You have a motion.
Is moved in second. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Is there any discussion for item B?
Move to approve the resolution.
It's been first and second. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Item 20, Draft Measure V 2018 Implementation Plan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I will make this brief. We are excited to be at this point where we have a draft. We're calling it a pre-draft because the action that we're requesting from you this afternoon is to release this as the official draft for the public review process to begin. But this is the culmination of the work that you all have been part of that started essentially 1 year ago this month with the first East and West Side Regional Projects Committees meetings. So the draft has been developed around the recommendations that came from both of the committees in May, which is essentially a pay-as-you-go strategy for a 2-year outlook. reserving 20% on both the east and west side to reserve as for future leveraging opportunities. So you see expenditures that total 80% of the revenue expected for the 2 years. I will also mention that something that is unique to our plan is that our implementation plan is specifically look at programming projects and expenditures for the accounts under Measure V that this board has authority over. So that's essentially the regional projects accounts, which I just mentioned, and the transit account. That is also one that this board has the authority on. So there is a summary of the expenditures and decisions to date that this board has made and carrying those forward for the next 2 years. Of course, those can be changed should this board feel it necessary, but the document in its totality address both the regional money and the transit dollars. So from here, with board action to release it as a draft, we have scheduled the second part of that action is to approve our schedule for public hearings and public review. We're going to have 2 information sessions, one in Los Banos on the 28th at 6 at the Los Banos Community Center, and one on August 29th at 6 at the Merced Civic Center. And then should all of this move along as we anticipate, we would be bringing this back for adoption in September, which would then make the regional money available.
Move to release.
All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion carries. Item 21, Master Measure V Regional Project Funding Agreement.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So come September 21st, should the implementation plan be adopted by the board at that time, the regional funding will be available per the allocations that the board approved earlier this year. And as just as we have funding agreements with each of the jurisdictions who are recipients for local dollars, we will have to have funding agreements for each of the regional allocations that the board has approved. So staff, our goal early on was to make sure that we had done all of our work and had an agreement, a draft agreement ready, so that when the money is available to access in September, that you all will also have funding agreements ready so that we can get those executed and you can take advantage of that. You could start to access your regional allocations. So we've been working with your staff, your legal counsels on drafting an agreement. It has gone through a review process with your teams and your legal counsel, and Emily and I have reviewed those comments, incorporated them as we could, recirculated that draft, and here we are. So this would be a master draft that upon your action would be sent. It will be project specific, so we have details on each allocation and each project that we would need to fill, but then it would go back to each of your jurisdictions, and based on your project schedule, your local your city councils and the board would be executing them when you're ready, and then coming back to this board to execute individually. They no longer have to be on the same schedule at this point.
Is there any discussion?
Direction to staff.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Item 22, 2019 One Voice Program Development.
Mr. Chair, so this is going to be a quick item because we never stop talking about One Voice, so we're just going to keep going. This is just information only to kick off the 2019 plan. In May, after coming back from the trip, we had a great debrief meeting, and we took those recommendations and staff recommendations and we brought them to you in June, and you all approved the changes. So we are ready to kick off with it. We will be sending a memo out to your councils and staff next month, letting them know with the changes, the program development, and the meeting schedule. We have pushed out the first meeting to December 13th to allow you guys to come up with your list of issues and projects for the platform. From here to the December 13th meeting, Stacy and I will be available to help your staff and council come up with their list of issues and projects and all of that. So when we meet on the 13th, we should be able to draft a platform of issues. Just some takeaways is the meeting is, or the 2019 trip is scheduled for April 30th through the 3rd. We will have fewer meetings, and we are finalizing the contract with the hotel. And I think that kind of sums it up. Do you have any questions?
Any questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, item 23, appointment to Calvan's Vanpool Authority Board of Directors.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Director Espinoza had requested this item be placed on the agenda as he had communicated he's no longer able to serve as the representative to the Calvan's Board of Directors. So we are looking for a new lead to serve on the Calvan's board, and currently we have Director McCabe, or Chair McCabe as the alternate. So we're looking for the appointment of a representative for the board of directors, and then if the alternate changes subsequently, we would need a new alternate.
Are there any volunteers?
I think Vialta would like it, right? Will someone make the recommendation?
For you to move up to...
No. Does anyone want to do it?
I'm already on the San Joaquin Valley Partnership.
And in terms of commitment, I should have mentioned that meetings are monthly. They are done by conference call, but you would have to do the conference call at MCAG. So they are the second Thursday of every month at 10 a.m. and you would have to be at MCAG to participate.
Where's the meeting?
I believe it's all Matt just walked out. I believe it's all a tie-in meeting. It's all mobile.
There is no set. Tulare.
Yeah, Tulare is.
Tulare,
Yeah, it's
Tulare,
Kings. I mean, there's. Yeah.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
It's like an hour meeting, if that. They go quickly through the agenda, and I was on it for 4 years, and I'd do it, but I don't have enough time to get there and do it and leave.
Right.
So, how about Lee Lohr? Is she interested?
Not at the moment.
Even though you live the closest.
You do live the closest. We can give it to Vialta. Or I think Hogue might love it. Hogue, I move that we appoint Vialta to the Vanpool.
I'll second.
There's a second. All right. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay. Congratulations, Mike. I'll call him after this.
Mr. Chairman, I would advise that the chair that come up with that brilliant idea is the one that has to call him and tell him.
Oh no, I'm gonna call him. I have other notes to tell him about we mentioned with the housing element and stuff. So I already made arrangements to call him and inform him of our meeting anyway. So this will just be the cherry on top.
Good.
Item 24, interim executive director's report.
I will make it brief and just state that between now and our next meeting, Director McDaniel and Director Villalta and myself will be on the Valley Voice trip. That's our it's basically the One Voice program, but it's valley-wide, and that is the 12th and 13th of September. Close enough. And we'll be reporting back on that trip when we return.
Director's reports. Director Murphy. Director Parra? Director Marilla?
Remind everybody of the water rally on Monday at 12 noon on the north side of the Capitol steps. Many ways to get there. Buses, trains, all kinds of free transportation.
Right. And the public comment period is the next day as well.
2 days.
Yes.
Nothing.
I just want to invite everyone to the first ever in the United States of America Punjabi night at a regional carnival. We're going to be having it at the Sweet Potato Festival. So we're going to have free Punjabi food, sweet potato samosas, Bhangra dancing, live Punjabi singers. It's going to be a great time, a family event for all. And you can even come get your turban tied. So I think all of you should come over and experience a turban for the first time. It'll be a blast. Dr. Lord? Dr. Price?
Just wanted to say that, well, folks know that we had an arson fire at our super target in Atwater. And as part of the cleanup, all the perishable food items needed to be removed out of there, and it's quite an undertaking. You don't realize how much you have there until you have to get rid of it all. And so I know that this had to be handled in a certain particular way over at the landfill in Brooks. I don't know, I probably should have asked you earlier, did you have to do anything in particular out there because all the food products and everything had to be buried, I guess, as soon as it arrived over at the landfill? I don't know if this put any undue strain on you guys over there, but okay, very good. In any case, yeah, I was in there the other day while the service master guys were in there, and that place was getting pretty rank. So it needed to be done quickly. And so if you guys and also Service Master and Allied Waste and all that got together with that, we're appreciative of any extra effort. Beyond that, I have nothing else. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, Gustine has the largest Portuguese festival in the United States coming up, second weekend of September. It's the largest, everything from Blessing of the Cows, and anywhere from 15 to 20,000 people will be in town that week. Parking will be at a premium. I mean, you can rent out your driveway to a motorhome if you want to make money. But as a side note, a friend of mine was in the Azores, and he was sitting in the plaza, you know, having an espresso, and he was talking to a local resident, and he told him there was a festival coming up that weekend, and he said, "I'm so excited to see a real festival here in the Azores." And the guy looked at him and says, "Nah, you want to see a real Portuguese festival? There's a little town in California called Gustine." and he was from Gustine, sitting right there, so they really think, you know, that's known all over the world, the Lady Miracle celebration. So come on over and experience some real great food all over the place. Thank you.
I know you had to, Chairman.
Yes.
If I might offer to the city of Livingston, since you're going to have your first, which day of the week is the Punjabi?
It's going to be the Friday night, the 21st.
If it was Saturday night, I could have brought a camel for picture opportunities.
Okay.
Anyways, so I don't think I can be there Friday night.
Yeah, right. Hey, we'll definitely think about that next year, though, and coordinate with you earlier.
All right, thanks.
Thank you. All right, at this time, we're going to move into closed session, so we're going to take a 5-minute break and then move into it. Yeah, me too. Yes, we stand here.
That's right.
Yeah. We'll officially go into closed session at 4:36. Oh.
Check, check.
Excellent. Okay, we are coming out of closed session at 4:50. Items to report out. This board has offered the position of executive director to Stacy Dabbs.
It's my fan club.
And we'll bring back the contract at our next meeting. And that's the end of this meeting, so meeting is adjourned.